but if you don't challenge your body physically, you are missing so much out of life.
Welcome to Running is Cheaper Than Therapy podcast. I am your host, Dr. Weta L. Brown. I inspire and promote movement. I explain how running adds to life from a mental wholeness aspect, how obstacles can be overcome in life to make it to your finish line. Welcome to Running is Cheaper Than Therapy, episode 85. Today I have one of my former coaches. She was instrumental in teaching me how to swim, getting over my fear of even the deep aspect of the pool. I still have some fears, but I overcome them. And part of the reason that I could overcome them is because of Valerie Tyler. Let me give you a little bit of background. Valerie grew up as a tomboy, competing with her older brother, from baseball to climbing trees, to tag races, to monkey bars, to long jumps. And she also did something which is called mud biking. She then transitioned to African dance, ballet, and jazz, along with tennis, roller skating, skiing, and aerobic classes. She was always active, and she still is, always challenging herself. At the age of 50, she was dared to run a marathon, and Valerie loves a challenge, although she competes with herself, not other people. Over the next 20 years, from age 50 to 70, she's run 35 marathons, qualified for Boston 4 times. She was instrumental in forming the South Side of the CARA, which is Chicago Area Runners Association, which was very productive. She also, on another dare, started triathlons at age 52. She didn't really know how to swim. She not only learned how to swim, she earned her lifesaver certification and began coaching swimming lessons at Chicago Blue Dolphins. She coached there for about 10 years. She now coaches with Maurice, which was a past guest on the podcast, with Infinity. And that is how I met her. She progressed rapidly with triathlons, from sprints to Olympics to half Ironman distance. She completed a full distance Ironman and placed second in her age group. Now her focus is on teaching. She has her own company. She has several certifications. Again, she teaches swimming. She wants to promote health and fitness to younger people as well as people her age. Please welcome Valerie to the show. So thanks for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me.
So let's just start. You mentioned in your bio that you always were active as a child. What did you do with your older brother?
Beat him up all the time. Yeah, my older brother, he was a year older than me. And he wasn't as physical as I was, and he wasn't as aggressive as I was. So I found myself jumping on him and beating him up all the time. You know how kids are.
You called yourself a tomboy. So as a child, you climbed trees. What else did you do with your brother?
Well, I didn't do it so much with my brother. I did it with the other people on the block because he wasn't all that active little boy. You know, he liked to sit and watch cowboy and Indian movies and stuff like that, where I wanted to go outside and run and jump and, play baseball and chase people and play it. I think was the name of the game. You tag somebody. Mm-hmm. I was the one who was much more physical than he was.
And you did mud biking. What is exactly mud biking? Just riding in the mud?
It's like taking those bicycles that, well, obviously they don't look like the ones that we ride today, but they were, big wheel bikes. After it rains, you just ride them through the street on the curb where the mud would form, just to make the mud sing and that kind of stuff. So I call it mud biking. But basically, it was just riding one of those, industrial looking bikes that sit up with the big tires and the big wheels on them. And a lot of times we would put people on the handlebars. And see, you too young to know all this stuff.
I remember riding people on handlebars.
You do?
Yeah, I remember that. Hold on, think about it now. I'm like, that wasn't probably too safe. But But yeah.
We did a lot of
and
things.
A lot of things we used to do. We used to ride our bikes without helmets and jump out of trees and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
We used to get inside a tire. They find those old tires in the junkyard, and we would get inside the tire and they roll the tire.
It sounds like fun.
And it probably wasn't anything unless it rolled into something. It probably wasn't going to hurt you, but the things that we did, jumping off roofs. I didn't jump off roofs, but I saw
some of the kids in your neighborhood
are jumping from roof to roof and all that crazy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I did things that were, like we used to get on the swing and you probably seen this before, Weta, where you stand up and then somebody's sitting down and you swing. You make the swing work, but you're standing on it and they're sitting between you. Mm-hmm. You're too young. You ain't seen that. That's how we used to swing.
Swing at the playground.
And that was scary. When I look back at it, it was scary. And we used to swing up high and then jump off the swing onto the grass. Okay. You know what I mean? It'd swing up and then while it was up, then jump. Okay.
That sounds dangerous, but yes.
Well, and that was the thing, daring each other to do stuff, But God was on our side because we did not get hurt, thank goodness.
Well, that's good. And then you transition into dance, ballet, tennis, roller skating, skiing. You've done all kinds of different activities.
Well, anything that somebody came up with, I was like, okay, I want to learn it. I want to do it. So I've never been, I've always been interested in doing things that were physical. So if somebody brought up something, then I'd try it. So I did all these things. I did everything that I could. I probably enjoyed dance the most.
Okay. You did all types of dance?
Yeah, I performed with an African dance troupe. It was a Darlene Blackburn African dance troupe.
Okay. So what gives you your drive and determination to do all these activities?
I think it's something inside me. I don't think it's anything that I developed into. I think I was always that way. My mother told me when I was young, even at 1 year old, it was like, I can tie my own shoe. I can eat my own food. You don't have to spoon feed me. So I think I kind of had something inside me that was very independent, that was very self-motivating, that I had sort of a drive that made me want to do things and accomplish things. So I just think it was an inner kind of a strength. Because my brother wasn't made up like that at all. It was like, it wasn't a part of his DNA at all. He was soft, subtle.
Oh, okay.
It's sort of a part of your personality, part of your persona, part of your character. And I've just always been that way. Even in the corporate world, I never settled for, this is an entry-level job. It's like, well, how do I get to be my boss's boss? So.
Okay. So you always had that determination and drive.
I've always had that determination to succeed. But what somebody told me one time is that I was very competitive. And here's the thing about it. There's something interesting about this because I'm not competitive. I'm really not. And you've seen me in so many different, venues. I'm not competitive. I'm competitive against myself. I don't compete with other people,
Other people.
Yeah, if you do well, I am in your corner. I am supporting you.
Yes, you are, because you've been in my corner several times.
I know. I'm like, I am so happy for people to see people achieve and accomplish their goals. And I was probably really built to be a sales manager because I always was a sales manager in the corporate world, sales director, sales VP, all of that, because I always wanted to see people. I always wanted to develop people, to see them grow, to see them achieve. But I also wanted to do it myself. But I never felt like I competed against my peers. Not meaning I didn't want to be in the top, but I didn't feel like a crab. Like if I pull on somebody, I'm going to pull on them to get me up. Or I'm not going to encourage them because they might beat me. I never felt that way. I always felt inclusive and collaborative and supportive. And anyway, so that's so when somebody told me that, I said, I'm really not competitive. I'm really not. I compete with myself.
Okay. But I guess that's competitive in a certain way.
Mm-hmm. That's why we use those monitors, heart monitors and the GPS, because I always try to say, well, what can I do to get stronger, to get
make
better?
It better. Mm-hmm.
So I would, time myself, and I wasn't that particular, but I did watch what I did. If I was riding at an average of 17 to 18 rolling, I said, well, how can I get to 18 and 19 rolling? Mm-hmm. But I wasn't looking at when we go out with our trainer, am I passing people? I didn't look at it that way. I just looked at it like, what am I doing?
I want to get better.
I want to get better. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So what made you start running at age 50? You mentioned it was a dare.
Yeah, I was a roller skater. And this girl, she knew about marathons and she had friends that did marathons. I don't know if you know Ruby Urban. Do you know Ruby?
I don't.
Oh, wow.
I might by face, but I'm bad with names though.
You got to interview her one day. She is stellar. She's run probably more marathons than any Black woman in the history of marathon running. And she's got to be about, she's really good friends with Bernard. Really good friends with Bernard.
Okay.
Her name is Ruby Urban. But anyway, it wasn't her, but I was introduced to her and she became my role model. And I said, wow, you run marathon, 26 miles? I said, I can't even run across the street. I mean, I'm like, running is not anywhere in my sphere. I mean, I didn't know what a marathon was, nothing. So I went to a meeting where Rudy Christian was kicking it off and Bernard was his sidekick. And around and all those guys that are athletes now that we look up to, they were sort of hanging around, hovering around and trying to, get all the excitement in the room for people to run this marathon. And so they told us to go after they hyped us up and said, if you can run a marathon, you could do anything in the world. I mean, you can accomplish anything, any challenge that somebody puts in front of you, you can mentally handle it and get through it because running a marathon just puts that kind of I can't even think of the right word, but that kind of emphasis on completing something or pushing yourself or setting goals and accomplishing them and stuff like that. And I really do believe that. I really do believe.
Yeah, I do too. Despite obstacles and challenges.
Despite obstacles and challenges. Because if you look at the people that compete in marathons, they usually have some other stuff going on. They're not just doing a marathon. They're a leader in some capacity somewhere, doing something significant. So they told us to go out and run 3 miles. And I looked at them like they're crazy. I was like, run 3 miles? I don't know how to run. So they came out with us and they, and I was so exhausted. I was like, I ran a block and I was like, I don't think I can run 3 miles. I was really, so we did it with a little bit of a light jog and a little bit of a walk. And when I came back, I said, okay, so that was 3 miles. They said, next week you run 4, the next week you run 6, then you come back to 4, then you go to 8, then you come back to 6, then you go to 10. And the training program, and they said, you got 5 months. This is May. It's not till October, Chicago Marathon. I looked at my girlfriend. I said, I don't know what we're signing up for, but let's go on and sign up. I said, I'm tired. Okay. I don't know. I can't even imagine running more than 3 miles. And to make a long story short, we just stayed with the program and did
kept going.
Exactly what they said to do, which meant, maybe a 20-minute run on Tuesday and a 40-minute run on Thursday and then come back to them on Saturday and do 4 miles or 6 miles. So it was hard, really, really hard, but we stuck with it and we got all the way to the 20 miles and we said, we're ready to go.
Okay.
It was hard, but it got easier as we
kept going, kept running,
pushed away and kept building our strength and our endurance for running. It got easier.
How was that first marathon?
It was great because we paced ourselves. We said, we're not going to run faster than 11. And now look, 11 is super slow, but it wasn't fast, an 11-minute mile. But what we did was we wrote on our arms and because we didn't have time. We had a watch, but we didn't have a GPS. You got to think about this over 20 years ago. So we wrote in magic marker on our inner wrist, like what time it should be at each mile. And then we looked at our watch on our other arm. That's so funny now that we have GPS systems. It's like, what were we doing? But back then they didn't have that. So that was the way that we made sure that we didn't go over. If we did a 10:50, we backed down. We did 11:10.
You paced. You didn't go out too fast. You kept a steady pace.
Yeah, we kept a steady pace because we wanted to finish, and we knew we could finish if we didn't burn ourselves out. And we saw a lot of people hitting the wall, a lot of people stopping, a lot of people falling apart. And we were like, we felt great because we stayed. We understood our boundaries. We understood our limitations, and we stayed in our lane. And we got through that first marathon. And after that, it's history. I got addicted.
Okay. Have you done 35 marathons?
Yeah. I was with a group of girls that really like to do marathons. So it encouraged me to travel and do them. So we traveled to, San Diego, Los Angeles. Then we hit the Midwest, Cincinnati, Indianapolis. And then we went north to, Milwaukee. And then we went to DC a few times to do the Marine Corps. And then I went over to China and then London and then, so St. Croix. So we just kind of found marathons and just somebody would say, okay, let's do this marathon in Phoenix. And we would say, okay, 4 or 5 of us are getting on a plane and go. And then we get a couple of rooms next door to each other. And then we get up early in the morning and go for it.
So what's your favorite marathon? Do you have one?
You know what? I hate to say it, but I did Chicago 15 times. And it got to the point, I think I liked Chicago because it was flat, number one. Number two, I had a lot of cheerleaders. So I always had somebody who was meeting me all along the way. So that was encouraging, taking pictures with them. Bernard was there with his team saying, you only got 2 miles to go, and I knew the course so well. There's a lot to say about familiarity. I knew the course so well that I knew how to save steps. I had read this article where I could save steps by moving into a lane to cut the corner. Like if we were approaching Clark Street off of, some East-West Street, I would Addison or something, which actually we did turn on a Broadway off of Addison. I remember it real well. It was a short turn off of Lakeshore Drive onto that. And then in 2 blocks, you would turn. Well, I would stay on the inside, turn, and then stay on the inside and turn again. So I knew all the tricks of the trade. I knew the route. They changed it slightly at the end. We used to go under McCormick Place on the other side of Lakeshore Drive. And then they brought it back to Columbus. But I knew it like the back of my hand. So with that familiarity, it just made me faster and faster. So all my 4 Boston qualifiers were in Chicago.
Did you run Boston?
Yeah, one time I ran it. One time.
What year? And tell me about it.
I would guess maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay.
It was a year or 2 before they had the bombing.
Okay, so the bombing, I believe, was 13.
Okay, then it was a year or 2. Well, maybe it was longer than that. I guess maybe it was 10 years ago. Yeah, maybe it's about 10 years ago.
Tell me about your Boston experience.
It was incredible. It was incredible. It was nothing like you'd ever experienced before. You felt like you were in the top less than 1% of people in the world that were runners. Mm-hmm. They made you feel that special. Everything they did around the event was like your Boston qualifier. it just made you feel so special. It made you feel like you were on the top of the world. It made you feel like you were an Olympic athlete, even though you weren't.
Okay.
It made you feel that you achieved something that so many people never achieve in their lifetime. So when you get out there, you're on such a high and you start running it and you feel so great because the first half of it is downhill. So you're just, whoa, look at my time. And they were like, don't blow yourself out. I'm just going to take it. I'm going to take it. So you're going down. They take you out, somewhere, and then you come back into city. And we're just going downhill. And then all of a sudden it starts tilting. And you climb almost the whole way back. That race was no joke. They had all kind of names for them. This hill was called this one. This was Heartbreak Hill. This was this hill. You were climbing. People were walking. It was that tough. And then what was so fantastic about it is these colleges that are right outside Boston, they come out in huge support for the Boston Marathon. So the closer you get into the city, you go through these campuses. I know one is Boston College, and I'm trying to think of that all women's college, but I can't think of the name of it. But it's right outside of Boston. So you're coming through and they're just cheering you on. They got all kind of outfits, costumes, flags, graffiti, signs, all of that. So by the time you finish, it's kind of like when you finish an Ironman. You feel like they call your name out. It's just very exciting. I did not go back, even though it was tough. And a lot of young people don't make my time. I had a little bit more cushion where most of the people I was running with, they had some crazy time. They had to do like 3:15 or something.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do 4:15.
Okay. So what's your least favorite marathon?
I did one in Napa Valley and we climbed mountains the whole time. It was like climbing mountains, ledges like this, drop-offs. Couldn't really run because there were roots and stuff from trees in the trail.
It's like a trail hill run.
Like, what is this? So I was just really disappointed at the layout. I went with a marathon group and my girlfriend, and we had to cross creeks and stuff, where you have to walk across the trunk of a tree, but your shoes would get wet because it was a creek, running creek. And I was like, oh, this is crazy. Why would they come up with this? And then after you did all of that and then ran a flat, you had to go back up.
Another hill?
No, the same route.
Oh, okay. So it was 2 loops. 2
loops. And it was treacherous. All you had to do was trip or something. So it made you very tentative. So I just felt like it wasn't.
So you couldn't really run fast because it was technical.
Bridges, little bridges, rickety bridges and stuff. So Napa Valley was fun, but I thought the race. And then another one that I have to put right up there in terms of difficulty and lack of enjoyment was the one in Beijing, China, where we did the Great Wall of China.
All those stairs?
The stairs were not even. One might be 4 inches, one might be 2 inches.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that. Oh, yeah, I didn't realize there were different lengths, though. So you can't really go fast. You got to watch your footing, too.
No, the footing was very treacherous. And very treacherous. You almost felt like you wanted to hold on to one side of the wall just so that you could get up and down. And then you go down, and then the next thing you know, you'd be going up, and then you turn around and then go down. So I was like, this is dangerous. I thought it was dangerous. Now, some people were trying to run it, but and obviously the whole thing wasn't the wall. You went down into a valley and you ran through towns, little kids and Chinese, out there cheering you on. And then it was hot. It was hot. It was like 110 degrees. So then they would give you a bottle of water. They didn't have it cold, so they give you a bottle of water. So you try and run with the water. It was horrible. I was like, oh. So they reduced it to a half a marathon because it was so hot. There were so many people falling out.
Oh my God. Wow, that is hot. 110 degrees to be running a marathon and all those stairs.
Yes. So those are my two least favorite.
What got you into a leadership role in the running community in Chicago? CARA, the Chicago Area Runners Club. What got you involved in that?
Well, I was running with my girlfriends on the South Side, and we were sort of morphed away from Rudy into an organization called Chicago Fit, run by a lady named Brooke Jackson. And then when she sort of broke away from that, then I ran with a group called Run Tell This. This was just like 10 or 12 of us kind of informally said, look, we want to continue to run. So we started running out of LaRabida, and we went over there, ran down the lakefront, and we had fun. We talked, we socialized, we solved the world's problems, we solved our personal problems. It was just the best, the best, the best. And then one day, years into it, I said, you know what? I love you guys, but I want to see if I can qualify. Because I had a really good marathon one year. And I said, ooh, I'm not that far off. I said, I need to be a part of an organization that has a pace group that's going to force me to run a certain pace so I can get there. So I knew about CARA. I checked into them. And so I had such a wonderful group, but I had to do a 9:30 pace group. We had been running at 10:30. So 9:30 was a big push for me. But I just said, you know what? I'd come back and I would say, they didn't leave me. That's all I can say. They didn't leave me. I couldn't breathe, but they didn't leave me. I got stronger and stronger and stronger. And then I got to the point where I became in the front runner of the group. You know, sometimes when we would get close to the finish line, or we'd be coming back from the run and we have a couple of miles to go to get to Montrose, and you'd be going past the golf course and everything, she would say, well, you can take off if you want to have a negative split, you could take off. And I was right taking off. So I knew that I had the stuff that I needed, and everybody was behind me because I was the only one in the group that was old enough to qualify at 9:30. But I was older, so everybody was pulling for me, pushing for me, encouraging me, surrounding me, and everything. So when we finished the training, I had a ton of friends. Went back the next year, and guess what? All my girlfriends came
to CARA. Okay,
to
okay.
So I didn't drag them. They said, well, shoot, if Valerie qualified for the Boston, we need to get some of what she's getting. I said, you know what? We need organization. We need training. We need pace groups. So they went up there with me, and they got in their individual pace groups. Everybody kind of was at different paces. A couple of my friends were at 8:30. A couple of them were at 9. I was at 9:30. A couple of them were at 10:30. So everybody got in their pace groups, and we would carpool up there, and we got it done. So CARA came to me and they said, look, Valerie, it seems like you are very influential. You know a lot of people. Why don't you start CARA on the South Side? I like running out of Montrose. I like the scenery up north, you know, a little bit different, you know, scenery than what we get there. Then we got to do that hill at the end. I said, I like all of that stuff. And so they said, well, we really have not been successful. We tried it 3 times to get a site coordinator for the South Side. So I said, I don't want to do it. They came and coerced me and courted me, and
they twisted your arm.
Oh my God. They worked on me so hard. Finally, I told them, I said, okay, it'd be easier on me not to drive up there. That's true. I love my people. Let me see what I can do.
They love you too, since that's why they followed you up north.
They did follow me up north, and they all got faster and better. But I told them, I said, I'm not going to be down here with no little peep squeak, 10 people, and 8 people are running today, and 6 people are running the other day, and 9 people. I said, I'm not going to have no small organization because I don't roll like that. I'm not going to start up something. I said, if you can get a minimum of 20 people to sign up, I'll run it. And so they said, well, how will we do that? I said, put it in the Hyde Park Herald, go to the University of Chicago. Now, you can imagine, I had my peeps and a couple of others, and then here come all these people from the University of Chicago that are runners that did not have a structured program to join and could not get up north because they were students. They were so excited. over the years grew to about 60 people.
Okay, wonderful.
And it was the most diverse group that CARA had. When we go to the end of the season meetings, we would scream and holler and they give us all kind of awards for diversity because we had all those University of Chicago, Asians, Indians, Caucasians, Italian, everybody, all of that. Then we had all the Black people that were running, which was not that many, maybe 20 or so, 25, but we had all of them too. And then we had different age groups, the diversity award, but that's basically how I got into it. It grew, and it grew. I had about 7 different pace groups. We went from 8-minute miles. We had some people that ran, with 8-minute, and then every 30 minutes we had a pace group. So 8:30, 9:30,
30 seconds,
10:30 and more and over.
Very inclusive of all paces.
Yes,
as well.
Well, that's what CARA is known for. You get in where you fit in with CARA.
Okay.
So you figure out what your pace is, and then that's the group. And if you go faster, then you move to another.
You go to that other pace group. Or if you're too slow, they'll drop you to the other one.
Exactly. Or they'll encourage you. I mean, you do it yourself. I mean, if you want to make yourself faster, then you stay with the fast one and you just challenge yourself. But that's what's so good about having organization around marathon training. That's what really sold me on CARA and organized training. And that's why even when I trained, under Infinity for triathlons, it was organized training. Organized training is the best thing you can do. It's very difficult to do this on your own. Now, it's not impossible. You can go to YouTube, you can pull down schedules, but doing it with somebody who is a coach and giving you guidelines. And you done this, Weta. I remember what Mo Wills is our coach, me and Weta's coach, and other people, a lot of other people. But he would give us a structured plan. And he said, if you follow my training plan, you will finish the Ironman. And the Ironman is one of the most difficult races ever. And he said, but if you follow it, you'll be well trained and you will succeed.
In season 5, we will continue the segment Ask the Doc. If you have any questions related to musculoskeletal health, please email me, send me a message via social media, or click on my website and leave an audio message. Select messages will be answered on the segment. Tell me, how did you start doing triathlon?
It was another day, right? I was good old Bernard and Rudy. They had been doing triathlons, and obviously Bernard had been doing Ironman. They said, Valerie, you are so athletic. You are so good at what you do, and you don't give up. We're looking for people that don't give up, right? They said, you need to do a triathlon. I said, well, I can't swim, so that's out. I kind of knew how to.
So you didn't know how to swim at all?
Not at all. I could breaststroke. I could do something where I could keep my head above the water. So I could breaststroke, but not professionally.
Enough to just stay in the water and kind of play in the water, basically, not swimming.
I could tread for 5 minutes. I could tread really well. And then I could side stroke. But remember, all of that's got my head above the water.
Okay.
So when somebody said, put your head in the water
and stroke.
I wasn't used to freestyle. I joined Team Dream. Team Dream was a collection of women of color doing triathlons. Derek Milligan. He's very well known. So I'm going to say his name again, Derek Milligan. He's been teaching Black women to swim, all kind of women, but he really focuses on women of color. And we had over 100 women in Team Dream.
Okay.
And he took us to Danskin up in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin, Lake Andrea, to do sprint triathlons.
So was that your first sprint at Pleasant Prairie?
Yes. and it was under Derek's instruction. Mo was hanging around there. Bernard was hanging around there. Rudy was hanging around there. They were all sort of mentors, our coaches, our cheerleaders. And we went up there and I freaked in the water. Totally. We went out and everybody freaked. I mean, it was just like.
Was it really choppy that day?
No. We were in Lake Andrea when the water went out, when we couldn't stand up. We were like freaking. I mean, we've never done this before. So they put us first after the elites. They had Team Dream. We were praying on the beach, on the shore and everything. We went out soon as we couldn't touch down. So they have swim angels that come over with noodles. And baby, them swim angels was all over, hanging, throwing us noodles and everything. Everybody was freaking out. But swimming in open water was a real challenge. And even if you got to the point, we practiced on Ohio Street Beach, but it's nothing like being in the event.
Yeah, it's just different. All the people.
You know, on Ohio Street, you get nervous, you could just paddle over to the ladder. No. So anyway, I freaked out. Somebody gave me a noodle and I triple switched. And then I got comfortable and I said, you know what? This ain't but a half a mile. Let me get my butt on over here. And I just took off. And then from there on, you know, I started doing that competition. And in fact, I became a swim angel for Team Dream.
So how did you progress so fast with the swimming? Because I had no idea that you didn't know how to swim before you started. I just thought you'd been swimming your whole life.
I was determined. I practiced and I practiced and I probably swam 5 times a week. I went to swimming pools. Okay. I went to lessons. I took from Derek. And then Derek told me, he said, Valerie, you are exceptional. You need to get with Chicago Blue Dolphins. If you really want to be a strong swimmer, you come to me. I was like, I'm done. I'm going to bye. I'm going to Chicago
Blue Dolphins. Okay.
So I went and joined them and they pushed the limit. And that's how I learned how to swim. I could half swim with Derek, but once I started.
So he took you to another level when you started.
I'm going to work at it so that I can get faster so I can move over. I did that and then I moved over another lane.
Yeah, you start off in this slow lane. I'm taking a master's class now and I'm in the slow lane.
So when I moved over there, then what John asked me, he said, do you want to be a coach for me? And I said, wow, what an honor to be a coach.
At Blue Dolphins? For
Chicago Blue Dolphins. So I coached for him for about 10 years.
Okay.
And then, as you know, I started coaching for Mo. For Infinity, but I coach swim. And I still don't call myself a professional swimmer. You know, I have anxiety when I get in the lake. I have, you know, moments of tight chest. You know, I have all those kind of things. But what I do well is on race day, all that stuff goes out the window. Because I'm focused on the finish line. I can't get through the water. I'm not going to be able to get on my bike.
You can't get to the bike and to the run. Yeah.
To run. So I'm nervous, but I just said, oh, well, put your head down and breathe. So what I would do to start out to relax myself and to keep from hyperventilating, I'd keep my head in the water as much as I could. Instead of trying to catch breath, I tried to focus on exhaling, releasing the air out of my chest and exhaling so that it didn't tighten up. So I would keep my head down 4 or 5 cycles, come up, keep my head down 4 or 5 cycles, blow out slow, and finally get myself to the point where I could get into my bilateral breathing every 3. But everybody has a strategy. This is mental. It's in your head. So you have to determine, what is my mantra? What am I going to repeat to myself? Where is going to be my focus so I can get out of my head? And that when I got to the water, I always had that focus because I was like, I got to get through this. I just got to get through this. And I don't want to freak out. I'm not saying I never did. I've gone to a boat And when I got to the boat, they would say, "Are you okay? You want to get out?" I looked at them like, "Yeah, I'm okay. I'm just taking a break to get my head right." They so quick to say, "Do you want to get you? Do you want to get out of the water? Are you okay?" I'm like, you know what?
I'm all right. I'm just up.
Let me just hold this boat for a second. I'm good.
Tell me about your progression from the sprint to an Ironman.
Now that's interesting because I did sprints for years. Then I finally said, I'm going to do an Olympic. I love the Olympic because I kind of felt like that was my sweet spot. Because with the Olympic, you get a chance to get your groove. It's not so short and quick. So I like that you swim longer. You're longer on the bike, so it gives you a chance to stretch out. I was a runner anyway, marathon runner. So, that little 6 miles was nothing. So then I said, you know what? Maybe I'll try. Somebody said, why don't you try half? And I said, that's double an Olympic. Yeah, why not? So then I started doing half. So I did steelhead a couple of times. I did something up in Racine, half Ironman up there. And so I just had gotten to the point where it's like half Ironman became my sweet spot. Just enough of a challenge to stretch out, to place in my age group, to show out and all of that, and not be totally exhausted and beat down. So a few years ago, and I trained Ironman, that was part of what I did with Mo. I'd go watch everybody do it and say, oh, I'll never do Ironman. I'll never do Ironman. And I was working full time I had a big, heavy duty job. I was the director of a technology company in sales. So I had a job, and I had a child and a husband. I had all kind of stuff going on. I was like, I don't have time. So I retired about 7 years ago. I'm thinking it was about 6 or 7 years ago. And somebody 2 years after that said, well, you've got all this time on your hands. Why don't you try? I said, I'm too old. I'm like in my upper 60s. Why would I want to do an Ironman now? And I ain't been doing one all these years. So they said, well, you're still strong. You're a great athlete. And why not? So I said, well, I'll try. And I tried. And then I, obviously did well, but I did everything. I'm just one of those kind of people. I am to the letter. If you tell me to do something, I'm going to do it.
You did everything on your training plan, and you didn't have any reds. You didn't have no reds on the training peak.
I didn't have no reds on the training girl. I was like, okay. Because you know what scared me? I was scared that if I didn't do it, Weta, I couldn't do it. Do you know what I'm saying?
If you didn't do the training, you would.
I die on the bike, or I die in the run. I felt like actually the swim was the least thing I was worried about because, by this time I've been swimming so long, it's like, okay, I can get a couple of miles of swimming in. Swimming became easy for me
because you've been doing it so long. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I know how to relax into it. It was that in Chattanooga with all those hills, it was getting up and down those hills that I was concerned about. So I was more concerned, and I knew I was a runner. So the main thing and the longest event in the Ironman is the bike. So you have got to conquer the bike. If anybody's listening, they're training for Ironman, they can kind of swim, get your swim in, but spend the majority of your time on the bike. The bike is everything. Because once you get down there and you throw on some gym shoes, you're going to figure that one out. You're going to walk, run, jog, walk fast. You're going to get your way through that. But that bike is no joke. That's at least 7 hours nonstop.
So tell me about your race experience in Chattanooga.
It was great. Well, I was a little disappointed with the swim, but not so much. It was like, okay, so I don't have to do that. I kept looking at that river thinking, I don't really.
There was E. coli. That's what it was, why they canceled it, right? Wasn't it E. coli on water?
It was overrun. It had flooded. Which probably had every bacteria imaginable. But that whole area, Tennessee and North Carolina, all of that had been flooding for the past week. It was some rainstorm that rained for days and days. So the water was way up over everything, over the rails. There were floating logs in the river and everything. So they canceled the swim part, which I was comfortable with because even though we couldn't wear a wetsuit, Mo had convinced me I would be okay because we were swimming downstream.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little nervous without a wetsuit, but he said we're swimming downstream. So as soon as you get in the water, you're going to feel the stream.
The current.
At the current, right. So anyway, they canceled that. I knew I was strong on the bike because I had been up to Wisconsin dealing with the mountains.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or, I took us up there 4 times. And if we weren't doing that, we were doing Barrington Hills, which was, as you know, a hilly course as well. So I felt comfortable with the bike. I had a good bike. I had a Cervelo. I had gotten used to being down, on the bars and everything. So I was fine with that. And I did extremely well on the bike. And then when I got off the bike, I'm a runner. So it was hilly. I do what other people didn't do. I taught myself to fast pace walk.
Okay. Up
so
the hill.
I got on my treadmill. I got on bridges here in the city. And I said, I know I can't run the race. Somebody already told me you can't run it. Not Chattanooga. So I said, okay, I got to get a fast walk. So I got myself down to a 13-minute pace walking.
Okay, that's fast.
Hill. And every time I looked at somebody, they were walking slow. And I was like, my arms were working. My knees were coming up. And then when I get to the top, I'd run downhill.
Okay.
So that was my strategy. And as you know, I ended up coming in second place behind this woman that had done it 9 times. This was her 10th Ironman. And she had just had a birthday and pushed herself into my age group.
Okay.
And I was like, what? I had no idea I was placing that well. But people were telling me along the way, all my cheerleaders, because they know where you are. They say, Valerie, you're in second place. You're in third place. You're in second place. You're in third place. You're in second place. So I said, you know what? I didn't know I was doing that well for my age group. And so anyway, I ended up in second place, way behind this other woman. She was phenomenal. But she had done this 9 times. This was my first Ironman at the age of 67. So I was very, 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 very proud. And did not know I was supposed to go to an award ceremony the next morning. I had everybody calling me Bernard, Mo. They're like, Valerie.
Like, where are you, Val? Yeah.
You're going to go on the podium. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And they're like, you could go to Kona. You qualified for Kona. I'm like, Kona? I'm not doing, what's Kona? They were like, do you know what people do to get to Kona?
Yes, you did. People lose their mind trying to get to Kona.
Right, they do 10 Ironman or 12.
Or actually, I know 1 female, 1 male, 2 males who qualify.
Yeah, I know them both. But they did so many events to get there. They're like...
No, they qualify by their time.
Oh, that's awesome. So anyway, long story short, I had to quickly check out of the B&B, jump in the car, and race over to the, building, auditorium where they were having this event. And I got there 5 minutes before they called me up on stage.
Okay, so you made it.
I made it. But it was funny because Bernard was like, how could you? I was like, you all didn't tell me I was supposed to be somewhere. How would I know? I mean, I'm good, but I'm because it really took a lot out of me.
It is training for an Ironman is like another job.
It was. And even though I was retired, I had a life. I didn't have a life when I was
training. Have a life. Yes, you do have a life.
And I didn't have a life when I was training for the Ironman.
I know, because you were like, I'm about to do this ride, and then we going, hey, ain't you tired? When you and you like,
I don't have a life. I tried. I told people I'm going to come to the party. I'm only going to be there about an hour. I'm going to show up. And I'd get cute, go to the party. And people would be going, you look so thin. And I said, I am. If you was running 18,000.
I know you running 100 miles.
I said, if you was burning 18,000 calories over the weekend, you'd be thin too. And so what I found out, though, is that I wasn't eating enough. I wasn't doing that part of it. I didn't have a nutritionist when I was training. And so even though I was getting all the exercise guidelines from Mo, nobody told me, Valerie, you need to focus on protein. Valerie, you need to put so many calories back into your system.
Yeah,
I would do the stuff I was supposed to do, Rita, around the workout itself. I had all my stuff packed from my 7 and 8 hour bike rides. But outside of that, I would be so tired, I didn't eat. I was too tired to eat. I started spilling protein in my urine.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
You remember that? Yeah, I had to go to a doctor. And my weight went down to 112 pounds. And I was like skin and bone. But what they told me is that I was healthy. And Mo told me, Valerie, don't get concerned about being so thin because you're strong and you have the endurance. Mm-hmm. You'll pick that weight back up. But I was scary. I had no booty, no calves, no thigh. I had nothing. And I had never been like that. But what I started eating was salmon. I had to eat salmon, chicken, and only dark vegetables. No, romaine lettuce or nothing like that. I had to eat broccoli, spinach, kale, all those kind of things to get the protein back into my body. Otherwise, I would have been probably sick.
Yeah, nutrition is key. What full distance Ironman race. Nutrition on the course and after you finish the course.
Yeah, and it really during the bike is very important. Very important. Every 15 minutes, Mo had me doing something. It was something. If it was a protein bar, a cube, salted potato chips, whatever. And then I had to alternate my Infinite with water, and you can get too much of one and not enough of the other. So it was a process. And people that fail on the bike, many times it's because they're not following a nutritional plan where every 15 minutes they're getting something into their system.
That's true. A lot of people don't get the proper nutrition, and everybody is different because some people try to follow someone else's plan. It's kind of trial and error and working with somebody who knows
exactly
what you need.
Exactly. Mo knew exactly how much carbs I needed, how much protein I needed, how many electrolytes I needed. And he spent 2 or 3 hours putting together something very specific for me. And when people fail on the bike, you ask them, well, what did you do for nutrition? It was just come see, come saw. I had a few cubes and I had a fig bar or whatever.
So part of my podcast is to feature guests who've overcome obstacles to make it to their finish line. Can you tell me about a obstacle that you've had to overcome? We kind of talked about some, either with triathlons or running or just in life in general.
Obstacles to overcome, because I always overachieving, and that means that I'm overcoming obstacles. I'm trying to think of one. Well, I had a tough time with something one time, and maybe this might have been an obstacle I'm trying to overcome. I'm still trying to overcome. I decided to do this race called Big Shoulders.
Okay, yeah.
And it's a swim, and I'm a swimmer. And I've done triathlons, and I've swam longer distance. Well, it's longer distance as this 1.5 swim. And the water was real cold that day because something had happened that week, churned the water, temperatures had dropped, water was freezing. And I got in that water, and I couldn't breathe. I went to the first boat. I hung onto that boat. They had this big boat coming, picking up people. They were like, do you want to get on the big boat to go back to shore? And I was like, no. And I just had to take a deep breath. And I had to swim from boat to boat. And each time, that boat would come back out, drop off people and come back out and pick up people. And I said, I'm not even embracing that. I'm not looking over there. I don't know how I'm going to get through this. If I have to go boat to boat, I'm going to figure it out. I was so cold. And what I realized is the longer I held onto the boat, so I said, you know what? Let me see if I can just do a stretch and really dig deep and not grab the next boat. Let me go past the next one. I think they had boats I would just say maybe every 100 yards, 150 yards. Let me skip that one. So I went past, skipped one and went to the next one. And then I said, forget that boat. I went to the next one. Forget that boat. That was the longest swim ever ever. It was only 1.5 miles, but you go out, then you go across, and then you come in.
Mm-hmm.
When I came in and I had to stand up, I almost fainted. They had to grab me, and I was in a state of hypothermia.
Shock. Mm-hmm.
My boo came and grabbed me, took me to the tents. All the beds were full. All the blankets were being used. They found a bed. They put me on a bed. It was the only bed left. And they asked my friends. I had a whole cheerleading squad out there. They were so concerned because I was, the last one to come in. Well, not the last one, but I was, took me a long time. They had to lay across me.
To warm you up.
To warm me up. So one person laid across my chest, the other one across my torso, the other one across my thighs. And they had to lay across me. They had to strip me down. They didn't have any more blankets left. And then everybody had to lay on me for about 5 minutes to give me heat back into my system.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, they would have taken me to, they're trying not to take
the
me.
Hospital, yeah.
And girl, I would say that was probably the worst experience. I mean, I felt like near-death experience there. Just to show how we overcome. I'm doing big shoulders this year.
Okay.
That was a long time ago.
I remember that. I remember that race. Mm-hmm.
You know what? Every year I say, I never do big shoulders. I'll never do big shoulders. And I said, you know what, Valerie? You have to conquer your fears. Conquer your fears. Conquer your fears. Just over and over. So I'm doing big shoulders this year. Not if it's choppy and not if it's cold.
What is the date? September
11th.
Okay, that's the weekend before. Okay.
September 10th. September 11th is a Sunday. That's the day of the Madison, Wisconsin Ironman. So it's September 10th. But here's my take. This stuff is not that serious. If it's choppy, I don't do well in choppy. If it's ice cold, I don't do well in ice cold. So conditionally, I will be doing big shoulders.
Okay, that makes sense because I remember one year it was almost canceled, but because I think Susan was supposed to do it. She was like, "Okay, I'll just do it another time." It's like,
oh, right.
It was real choppy.
Right, I remember it was a mess. Mm-hmm. So Susan's doing it this year as well, and I have one of my students is doing it with me. She's a good swimmer. Just the endurance part. I said, just hang on to the boat.
Go from boat to boat.
Go from boat to boat. Or she's really good at just hanging out in the water treading. So I'm like, just tread or not tread. Those wetsuits kind of hold you up anyway. So I said, whatever you do, just put your head down and keep moving.
Mm-hmm. And it for sure will be wetsuit legal, unlike some other races. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like that might be in terms of athletic challenge. I don't really want to go into work because that's a whole nother. I think big shoulders, that time that I went into hypothermia, that was probably one of the scariest.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very scary. I mean, being out in the middle of the water.
It is. It's something about when you cold, you feel like you can't catch your breath when you swim in cold water.
Right. And I kept trying to breathe, and you go under and breathe out, and you're just so cold. Your chest is so cold. Your lungs don't warm up. And when your lungs don't warm up, it's hard to get regulated. Mm-hmm. And that's the key thing I tell people I coach swimming is that you've got to get your breathing regulated.
Yeah.
And that's what we struggle with. I mean, I have so many swimmers that can swim. And I remember you going through all the stages, and it was like you went through them really well. I mean, I said, I wish I could go from taking somebody like watching you not being able to swim to being a competent swimmer was like so inspirational as a coach. I mean, I can't take all the credit, but just to watch.
But you were helpful, and you were like, Wheeler, you need to get in here and you need to just keep practicing. And you used to come with me swimming at LA Fitness. That helped me a lot.
Oh, right. I was like, just keep putting those laps together and getting comfortable. Like Mo says, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, getting comfortable with it. And I have so many people, I'm like, right at that point, they're right where you were in terms of the triple switch. And now I'm I remember you did this so well. We said, instead of triple switch and just roll to breathe and roll your head back down and then stroke. Mm-hmm. That was the key.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then you started putting it a shorter time to hang. And then you finally started just rolling and moving into it. And that was you were really the first person that I saw go all the way from not swimming to swimming in a short period of time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Got that down because you said, I'm going to be in a triathlon. I said, what? You're like, I got a triathlon in the spring.
I had to because I've taken swim lessons before. I was like, this is it. I'm going to do it this time. And I was like, I had you and Mo to get me there. I was like, we going to do this.
I believe it. I was like, you're going to do a triathlon. I said, people come to here 2 or 3 years before they do a triathlon. And you went somewhere down south and did that triathlon. I said, you go, girl.
I did. I freaked out, but I made it. I made friends with the kayak guy, but I made it. I took a picture with him.
I tell you, people don't know what they're missing when they don't do athletic races. I don't care what it is. It could be skiing. It could be competitions. I roller skate. It could be competitions in roller skating. It could be tennis. It could be, I want to be a bodybuilder. I mean, bikini contest. I mean, there's so many things, but if you don't challenge your body physically, you are missing so much out of life.
True. And it challenges your mind. It helps you in other stuff out. It helps you with your profession, job, relationship. It just kind of, it gives you a goal and you have a sense of accomplishment even. And it's not easy, but life is not easy. So it correlates to life.
Right. If it's difficult, dig in and make it happen. And one of the things I did do, and I brought a picture here, I was really concerned about nutrition when I was doing the Ironman. So I went on and got my certification in nutrition.
Okay.
I got my certification as a fitness coach, and I got my certification as a certified personal trainer.
Okay.
Wasn't easy because I did it online, but I just sat here and said, I have my own company. I've had it for 7 years, VTFit. I founded it before I retired. I founded it. Yeah. And I've been coaching people, strength training, yoga. I'm yoga certified, all of that. And I said, you know what? I had some certifications, but I didn't have, these pledge certifications, these top notch. And I said, you know what? I'm going to sign up, register. I didn't know it was going to be as difficult as it was because it really takes a lot of self-discipline to sit here and go through courses and tests and quizzes and, and finals and all of that. But I did it all this year.
Okay. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
One more question. If present day Val could go back and talk to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
I probably would have started my journey on these races younger.
Okay.
I look at people like you that start in their 40s. I probably would have been a phenomenal threat had I started younger because I look at what I did. I beat a lot of young people when I got older. So having started running marathons at 50 and doing an Ironman at 67, I think if I were to talk to my younger self, I would have just started that earlier in life. That's all. Other than that, I have no regrets.
Okay.
I feel good. I'm glad that I'm physical because I feel that when I look at my friends, I just feel in general, I want everybody I know to do something, to work out, to move.
True, yeah. To be healthy. It helps your mind and your body.
Right. I want everybody to be healthy. And there were a lot of illnesses in my family. And I felt like if I challenge myself to do these things, it's going to make me healthier physically and mentally. And there's diabetes runs in my family, high blood pressure. My sister passed from lupus. I mean, it's just all kind of autoimmune diseases that are very prevalent in my family line that I felt like I want to avoid. So I'm going to work out because I know it's good for me. It's healthy for me. And, maybe it gives me a few more years. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it does. And it makes you feel good.
It takes a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And it makes you look good. I mean, you feel good.
And then the people you meet, the community is good. I mean, it's like a family,
That's the best. That's the best. I love it. I love all of my community of athletes. I love them to death. I get the biggest kick out of them when people say, you want to go party? I'm like, no, because I got to get up. I committed to meeting somebody at 5:30 or 6 o'clock. And that's where I get a high. That's where I get a high. I don't get a high from going to a party. I don't drink alcohol. I don't eat processed foods that they have, knickknacks. I don't do that. So I'm looking at longevity of life, strength, so that I'm not on a walker, and healthy so that I live long. I want to be around for my grandbaby.
Mm-hmm. So any last minute words of advice for my listeners?
I'm at the point in my life now where I want to give back. I always was kind of a coaching kind of a person, but now I want to see the next generation rise up and do well and win awards and place in competitions and just get involved in marathons and triathlons and any other sport that you want to get involved in. So if there's anything that I want to do is I'd want to set an example for the younger generation and even for my generation, but to set an example to say, you can be strong, you can be healthy, you can lead a stress-free life, and you can still do all the other things you want to do to enjoy your life. But being healthy and fit is number one. A high priority for me, and I think it should be a high priority for everybody. So I want to keep it moving. I want to stay active, and I want to give back.
Where can people find you? If it's Facebook or if they want to take your Zoom class?
I lurk around Facebook, but I don't really post. So if somebody was to reach out to me, obviously they can reach out to me via Messenger, Valerie Tyler, Tyler, or my email for work for my business is Val, VAL, and then VTFit is my logo. So it's Val VTFit at gmail.com. So yeah, VTFit is my incorporated name. Yeah, about 7-8 years old, my business is, and it's done well. It's done well. I'm pleased at where it is. And I'm pleased that the people that come to me are serious. I've had some fallout, not much, but the people that come to me are serious and they tell me really good stories. Like I've lowered my A1C. I'm not on medication for blood pressure. I've reduced, my BMI has gone down. So I've reduced, my fat percentage, all that kind of stuff. That's what turns me on.
Well, thank you again for joining me, and thank you for all that you do. And I appreciate you for teaching me and being hard on me in the pool, because I can tell it worked. Right now, I'm trying to work on improving little stuff, but I thank you for teaching me, because I was afraid to even get in the deep part of the pool.
And look at you, Weta. Look at you. Ironman, 2.4 mile swims. Look at you. It hadn't been that long.
That wraps up this episode of Running is Cheaper Than Therapy podcast. Thank you for tuning in. If you already haven't, please download Running is Cheaper Than Therapy podcast on Apple, Spotify, or however you listen to your favorite podcast. If you have any questions, concerns, or possible show topics, please email Running is Cheaper Than Therapy, OLB, Omaha Love Brown. Again, that's Running is Cheaper Than Therapy, Omaha Love Brown at gmail.com. I also can be reached via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Handle We Life, We Love. OUI Life, OUI Love. Thank you, and please tune in again.